Okay, so to continue, we're going to add some reference geometry, in this case a plane, and we're going to offset it from the top plane and make sure it's above the torch like that. Then we'll open up a sketch on that plane and we'll look 90 degrees to it, and we're going to draw a slot. And we want to make sure that by holding control, this line, try that again, this line and that line are collinear, and also that this curve is tangential to that top line. Now it may not allow me to select that top line because that line is not on the plane. So if we offset entities, now I already had that line selected, press OK, it should pop that line onto the plane. Likewise, we will select this line and offset entities so that comes onto the plane. Now we should be able to hold control and make this line and this arc tangential, and also this line and this arc tangential. So that should be that. And now if I open up my extrude cut feature and select this profile and extrude cut that through everything, we get some funny business happening here. That's clearly not what I want. So what I want to do is, let's just delete that feature. First of all, I don't want it cutting through the torch body itself, so I will turn off that. Secondly, I do want to extrude cut this shape, but I do not want this solid in the center to disappear. I want the edges to disappear. So what I will do is select flip side to cut, in which case it should do this for me. What it does is it cuts everything outside that shape and it leaves everything inside the shape intact. So now I can turn off the visibility of that plane, I can turn back on my original part, and you'll see it has not cut or damaged my original part. So let's now get some details into this handle. Because this is a flat plane, as is the far side, we can open up a sketch on it, and rather than drawing all the profiles again, I'm going to try my luck at opening up a line command and then offsetting entities. So you can see it's already prompted and tried to do the offset for me, but it's gone the wrong direction, so I'll reverse that direction so it comes inside, and as it happens it's already set to 3 mil, which is what I want. So press OK on that. Now I will extrude cut that a distance of 7 millimeters into the handle. Give me that little indentation, and now I will mirror that feature through the right plane, remembering that the right plane is perfectly centered in the torch, and the feature that I want to mirror is cut extrude 3. So now I have that notch both sides. So now it's time to start rounding over some of these faces. It looks very blocky at the moment. And the first thing I'm going to do is apply a fillet. Let's say radius 30 mil, a rather large radius fillet, to round over the intersection between both parts of the main body. And now if I try to add a fillet between the handle and the lower body of the torch, it won't let me because they are two separate bodies. So to join those back together, we'll go to Insert, Features and Combine, select each body and approve it. Now both of those bodies have been joined into a single body, and you'll notice our solid bodies folder on the left has disappeared. And now we should be able to add a fillet. So let's just say an 8mm fillet between the handle and the body there. We'll approve that. And let's just say a 4mm fillet at the tail end here. And the 4mm fillet seems to be a bit big, so let's go to 3mm fillet and it works fine. And while we're at it, we'll see if we can put a 4mm fillet onto the back there. It doesn't like that, so let's go to 3mm fillet again, and the 3mm fillet is fine. Now I want to round over a lot of these sharp corners, so I'll open up a 1mm fillet and select as many of these faces as I can. In fact, any line I can find that looks a little sharp, I'm going to apply a 1mm radius fillet. It really improves the photorealistic image that we'll be doing later if most of these corners are rounded over. So I'm happy with that, and I'll approve it. And now we have a pretty rounded looking torch. It looks as if all the sharp corners have been removed. So now let's start adding in some of the grips, or these intricate pads that you saw at the beginning. And how we're going to do this is as follows. We're going to start up a plane, and we will put that plane outside the torch. In fact, we don't need it to be that far outside it, we just need it to be outside it. And on that plane we'll draw a profile that looks a little something like this. This is going to be the shape of the little grip, the extrusion if you like, offset from the surface. And we'll make this, say, 25. We'll make this bottom line 75. And we'll make sure that the center of this line is directly opposite or horizontal to the origin. One way of achieving that is to right click the line and select midpoint, and the midpoint becomes selected. And now if you hold Control and select the origin, you should be able to add a horizontal constraint. And I want to dimension this distance to be 15. And finally I want this line to be at an angle of 60 degrees. So I don't want it to be perfectly sharp like that. I want to use a sketch fillet to round over the corners to a radius of 6mm. Now this notification just tells me that this 75mm dimension is relying on that corner. By adding a fillet, it's essentially deleting the corner, so it's going to make its own sense of it. It's going to put a little marker in the corner. So just select yes, and if it crops up again, just select yes again. So now we have that profile. I want that profile to be projected onto this surface, but this surface is a loft. It's not a flat surface as such, it's a more complicated surface, so it's not easy sketch on that. So I'm going to use a roundabout way to do that. What I'm going to do is extrude this profile all the way through the torch, so it comes out the far side. I'll make sure it is deselected here so the result is not merged. And now I have two separate intersecting bodies. So if I want, I can turn off that intersecting body and hide it from sight. But for now, I do need it. And why I need it is this. I'm going to go to Tools, Sketch Tools, Intersection Curve. And now by selecting this face and then this solid. Now to select the solid, rather than clicking it in the graphics window, I'm going to select it from the solid bodies folder. Now you can see the face and the Boss Extrudes solid are selected. So if I press OK, I get a very nice sketch where those intersect. So now if I hide that body, I'm pretty much finished with that. 3D Sketch 1 gives me the intersection both sides. Now I'll work with that in a moment, but for now I'm going to create a second sketch on this plane. This time it's a little bit more intricate. It's going to start and go across, take the same shape, but this time it's going to lap over the edge of the torch. So I do want this line to be collinear with this line. So if I hold Control and select both of those lines, I can add a collinear relation. This line and this line will also have a collinear relation. I will smart dimension its overall height to be 45. I'll just drag that down a little. The gap between them will be, let's leave it at 10. And then just to finish it, we will put the 6mm sketch fillet on these two corners. We don't need it on the bottom corners because they're not going to intersect. And we'll do the same thing again. We'll go to Tools, Sketch Tools, Intersection Curve. We'll select the sketch. I missed. We'll try that again. Tools, Sketch Tools, Intersection Curves. We'll select the sketch. If I can't select the sketch here, I'm going to select it from the drop-down menu. And I'm also going to select, now that didn't allow me to select it that time. Of course, I forgot to extrude it. So I'm going to X this and go Features, Extruded Boss Base. We'll extrude the profile first of all, of course, and make sure it goes through the solid. We'll merge the result. We won't merge the result. Press OK. And now, of course, it's not the sketch, it's the solid body I want to intersect with the model. So, Tools, Sketch Tools, Intersection Curve. We'll select the face and that final solid body. And you can see a much more complicated intersection curve is generated this time. And if I hide the plane in a moment, you should be able to see both of them at the bottom. So let's use those, and we're going to do a bit of surface modeling here. I ultimately want to take each of those sections. If I just highlight them here, you can see that section and that section, and I want to not extrude them out, but do a thing called a thicken, surface thicken them out. So first of all, I need to tell SolidWorks to view this face as a surface. It doesn't necessarily know it as a surface yet. So to do that, you can either access them by going to Insert and Surface, all the commands appear there, or if you right click up here and make sure the Surfaces tab is highlighted, you can get the Surfaces features in here. So the first thing I want to do is knit surface. Knit surface can be used to knit multiple surfaces together, or in our case we're just going to select this one surface and approve that. And what that does, it tells the software to consider that as a surface rather than a face. I know it's worked because now in the feature manager I've got a folder called Surface Bodies. But that surface knit is that entire surface. I don't want that entire surface. I just want this little element of it. So now I'm going to go to Trim Surface. And over here, the Trim tool is going to be this sketch. And I want to keep selections. So if I select this area and this area, those two areas will be kept. So now I have those two little areas. So the final thing is to thicken those. And if I select that and that, I can thicken those to a particular distance. In my case, I want to thicken it to 3mm. And you can do a mid-plane, which will thicken it out both sides, or just a one-directional or a unidirectional thicken, which will thicken it either one side or the other. So one is fine. Now I may have to do these individually. I think I do, so I'll do them individually. So when I press OK on that, that thickens its way out. Let's do the bottom. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to knit this surface together again. So knit surface,